nothing to be embarrassed about there. Why did he feel as if he needed to tell her any of this? His lineage was in Debrett's for anyone to read. As my wife, you would have complete control over all the houses and domestic staff at all my estates. When I spoke with your father, I assured him you will have a generous allowance. The thrill Georgie had initially felt was fading rapidly and being replaced by dread. This was not going at all the way she expected it would. I assure you that I am a responsible landlord, and from our conversations and letters over the summer, I know that you will be interested in not only the estates and the dependents, but will enjoy an involvement in politics that, being my Viscountess, will allow you. He swallowed. Tea would have been a good idea. Would you do me the honour of being my Viscountess and wife? That was it. It sounded more like he was presenting his qualifications for a position than a marriage proposal. Georgie stared at Turley for several long moments. Other than the actual asking for her hand, there was only one thing she had wanted to hear from him, and he had not said it. She bit the inside of her bottom lip, afraid now of the answer to the question she was about to ask. Do you love me? His eyes widened, and he stilled like a deer ready to run for its life. The lips she had so looked forward to kissing moved but emitted no words. She closed her eyes and did the hardest thing she had ever had to do. Thank you for your kind offer, my lord. However, I am unable to accept the honour of being your wife. Benson will show you out. Georgie forced herself to stroll calmly out of the front parlour and up the main staircase. Once she reached the second floor, she increased her pace until she was running straight to her room. Tears pricked her eyes, and she blinked hard to keep them from falling. But as she stepped into the corridor leading to her bedchamber, they defied her attempts to halt the blasted things. Drat, drat, drat. After months and months of waiting, Turley had finally proposed, and the one thing, the only thing she had needed to hear from him had not been uttered. She should not even have had to ask if he loved her. His lack, that he hadn't mentioned it at all, despite the fact he had stated every other reason she would be happy married to him, should have given her a hint. But no, she'd had to ask if he loved her, and he couldn't even answer. The look on his face seemed to be burned into her mind. He had acted as if it was the last thing he expected to hear. At the end, he could not even meet her gaze. She reached her bedroom and collapsed onto the bed. At least he had been honest. Even if he couldn't bring himself to answer, he had not lied. A lie would have been worse. That he did not love her was bound to have come out at the worst possible time, and probably not until after they had wed, when it would be too late for her to do anything about it. Trying to stem her tears, she gulped huge breaths of air, but it didn't help. At first, tears just rolled down her cheeks, but then her nose began to run. Turning to her side, she pulled out a handkerchief and blew her nose. Then her chest began to ache. Why did this hurt so much? Georgie had heard about hearts breaking, but she never thought it was physically possible for it to happen. Apparently, she was wrong. Despite all the attention he had paid to her, deep inside of her she must have known he did not love her, otherwise she would not have asked. Therefore, his lack should not affect her this much. Unfortunately, this eminently commonsensical thought did nothing to help. The combination of tears and a running nose caused her to hiccup, and then she began to sob. Great, huge sobs so hard she could hardly breathe. Perhaps